On the line with us, or sitting right next to me, actually. I'm so used to saying on the line with us. You know, it's a remote guess. Is Lee Saunders. He's the president of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, one of the largest unions in the United States, one of the finest unions in the United States. You guys do great work.
1.4 million public service workers all across the country.
There you go. And it's marvelous. At AFSCME is the Twitter handle, of course, and AFSCME.org, the website. Lee, tell me about the union and the union's thoughts on what's going on here today.
Well, we're are just coming off of our convention last week in Los Angeles, and we had 4,000 delegates and alternates there. And they are very excited, and they are very committed to going back to their communities across the country and knocking on those doors and going to those work sites and talking to people about the importance of voting and the importance of participating in this electoral process, and talking about the strengths of Harris-Walz ticket and what that means for working families all across the country, as well as the other races, Senate, House, down ballot. All of those elections are extremely important to our members.
You're finding people are willing to get out and work on these things?
They are now, and it always takes some time, and you've got to really educate first and talk to them and listen to what they have to say. But the closer that it gets, people are engaged, and people are willing to do the things necessary to speak to your communities and speak to your family members and your union members.
Yeah.
And talk about the issues that confront workers every single day.
There you go. You mentioned the Harris-Walz labor agenda. How would you characterize that? I
would characterize it as two individuals who not only believe in helping and supporting working families, but they've lived it. Kamala has lived it. Governor Walz has lived it. I mean, he was a school teacher.
Yeah, he's a union member.
Yeah, he's a union member. Kamala comes out of the public service, quite honestly, so they get it, and they understand it. And I think that, in fact, I know that they're going to be very, very supportive of continuing the legacy of President Biden, but doing their own thing as well as far as improving the lives of working families.
It's always seemed to me, and I've written about this, that the two big challenges that labor has right now are, number one, overturning Taft-Hartley. I mean, that was just, Harry Truman referred to it as a vicious piece of legislation, and I think he was right. Ending this right to work for less thing, that was pitched as right to work, which was just BS. It's right to work for less. And then secondly, short of that, because that's a big lift, all the incremental stuff like the PRO Act, card checks, things like this. Where do you see we're at legislatively moving forward in guaranteeing protections for labor and expanding organized labor in the United States?
It's a priority. It's a priority for us, and we believe that we will have a stronger chance. And as a matter of fact, we believe that we would have elected officials like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and at the local level who would support the PRO Act. Keep in mind that we are not covered under the National Labor Relations Act in the public sector. So we have to have a different kind of law, federal law. We're calling it the Freedom to Negotiate Act, Public Services Freedom to Negotiate Act, which mirrors the same thing that the PRO Act does, only with private sector workers, because we don't have the luxury of being covered under a national law, even though the national law right now is flawed, and we need to strengthen it. So we've got to do both. But the important piece is that workers have a seat at the table, and they can bargain collectively over wages and working conditions, benefits, safety and health issues, all of those kinds of things. And we're confident, and we believe that the administration of Harris and Walz will move forward with that, along with a friendly Senate, if we can continue to hold on to the Senate. And we really believe that we have a chance to flip the House as well.
That's great. I know that there are some red state governors who would very much like not to have their public employees unionized. How much power do they have? How extensive is that? What's going on with that? Ron DeSantis ranted about this back when he was running for president, and it sounded pretty grim. I don't know what he's been able to put into place. What is the state of unionization in the red states?
In Florida specifically, they took the check off away from us. We have to recertify every single year with 60% of the voting population of the membership within that state. So he tried to gut us. Yeah. If you think about about what happened in Wisconsin, which was not a red state, when Scott Walker was the governor there, our union was born in the state of Wisconsin with public sector workers, and he stripped us of collective bargaining completely. You've had the same thing. They tried to do it in Louisiana. The governor blocked it, not the governor blocked it, but the legislative people blocked it, and those were some Republicans that said, no, that's going too far.
Really?
But you still got that going. And here's the thing. If you look at Project 2025, they want to destroy all public sector unions. They say that.
Yes,
in that 900-page document.
Yeah,
they say
come write it out. And
they don't want public sector workers that, number one, be represented and have the right to bargaining and have the right to have that seat at the table, nor do they believe that they should be represented by a union. And that is black and white, clear is the nose on your face in that document. And all you have to do is tell that to our folks, because they understand the importance of having a seat at the table. They're all public service workers.
Yeah.
We do represent some private, but overwhelmingly as public service workers. And when you talk to them about that, they get it, because they do not want that table taken away from them.
Now, the Supreme Court has already put into place several of Project 2025's goals, blowing up the Chevron deference to go after regulatory agencies, gutting the Civil Rights Act, gutting the Voting Rights Act. Project 2025 may go a little farther in some of these regards.
It goes a whole lot farther.
A lot more draconian. But the Supreme Court is with them. It's very, or at least the 6 right-wing Republicans on the Supreme Court, particularly, the ones that are bought off. John Roberts' wife taking $10 million from big law firms, Clarence Thomas taking $4 million from his rich buddies, Sam Alito taking trips, with hedge fund guys. These guys hate unions. Do you see, are there any cases that have been teed up to go to the Supreme Court? Do you see any danger coming down the road in this regard?
Well, if you look at Project 2025, there will be dangers. That's why it's so important to be involved in this election. We've got to elect someone who believes in workers' rights, and we know that Kamala Harris and Thom Hartmann believe in that. They're going to have control over who's going to be on that Supreme Court whenever somebody leaves.
Yeah.
Just think about another Trump presidency, and when you have a vacancy on the Supreme Court.
If the Supreme Court hadn't stolen the election in 2000 for Bush, we'd only have one right-winger on the court.
No,
right
it's telling.
Clarence Thomas.
And that should scare people right there. I mean, to continue down the road that this Supreme Court is moving now, that's not only attacking the freedoms of union members, but the freedoms of all Americans.
Yep.
And we've got to stop it. And the way that you stop it is to change course and to elect people who are pro-worker, pro-friendly, pro-family to unions and the American public.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and the power of the Supreme Court is pretty grim. In the minute we have left here, by the way, we're talking with Lee Saunders, the president of AFSCME, AFSCME, the American Federation. What's next for your union? Where are you going from here?
Well, we're going to concentrate on the elections coming up in November. We are charged up. We've got people knocking on doors and talking with people all across the country. We're working with community organizations that are like-minded, who believe in supporting labor, and we're going to do everything that we can to educate and mobilize and organize our communities across the country so we have a victory in November.
Yeah, it seems like a really important project.
It is. No question.
It's amazing that people are concerned about the survival of abortion rights or even birth control for that matter. You guys are talking about your jobs, the fate and future of your families.
Well, we're connecting everything.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an attack on our freedoms that we have enjoyed in this country that are slowly being attacked and taken away from us.
There you go.
And we've got to make that connection. And it's just not a labor union fight. It's a fight for those who care about continuing to have those freedoms.
There you go.
And to move forward.
Lee Saunders, you're doing God's work.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for dropping by.
Thank you.